Hey there, welcome to another episode of Spice Files. I'm once again joined by my good friend Dave, and we're also, this episode, joined by Hank from the Old School Dutch Guild. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good,
Great.
thank you.
Awesome. We're going to talk about the Corona Cup series that you guys did. Maybe you can just tell us a little bit about that and a little bit about your old school background and the group that you play with and that kind of thing.
Sure. I will start with myself.
Sure.
So I actually played from near the end of Revised. So I had the luck to be there when Fallen Empires hit the stores. Played a lot of Revised, played Fallen Empires, was introduced by a friend of mine. He I think every old schooler has the same thing. You know, you just play with your own made-up rules, and damage sticks with us. So you had to hit a wall of wood 3 times with your drudge skeleton before it died. Obviously, a wall of ice was enormous.
Yeah.
And I actually stopped playing around visions, something like that. You turn 18, you do other stuff. I had my regular play group, and then I remember 2018, something like that. Richard, who organizes the Raging Bull series, I always used to play with him, and he called me up and he said, "Listen, there's a new format. You're gonna like this. It's called Old School. Let me win 3 times," and Pyramid succeeded. I was in. We actually used that in the Netherlands as a Anne, who we're also going to discuss later, but who was in the finals of the Winter Derby. He actually used the pyramid logo every time we get a new person in the WhatsApp group in the Netherlands. We're quite lucky with our group in the Netherlands. Some of the founding guys was Erwin, known by most in the in the community. And the country is so small, so if you drive for 2 hours, you're out of the country. So, and we have a lot of people organizing tournaments, so we basically have a tournament like every month. And because it's always so close, you always get between 30 and 50 people showing up. And we have the people from Belgium coming in. Florian comes by a lot of times, takes Malta and Tilo with him from Germany. So we have quite a steady group. We've got a healthy play group, and we were all together in the same WhatsApp group. Yeah,
You guys have like an embarrassment of riches in the Netherlands. I can't underscore that enough. I think in terms of like awesome tournament organizers, great players. I mean, you probably have the most like good tournament organizers in tournaments like either per capita or per square mile or both out of any country. It's pretty amazing how much you guys have packed into that country just in terms of awesome things to go to and great people to play with.
I mean the country is what, I don't know, 160 miles with 130 miles width. You know, so it's nothing. You can visit a tournament, like I said, under 2 hours drive. If you have to drive for 2 hours, that's for the guys in Groningen, which is basically Denmark South.
The Kramer brothers, right?
Yeah, the Kramer brothers, exactly, the twins. Yeah. So, and we have a lot of guys flying in for the tournaments as well, and we're also always make sure that we have some representation on one of the tournaments. So yeah, we're quite lucky with the whole community, and it's still growing. I mean, we allow basically most tournaments allow all reprints as long as it is same art, same border, so we recognize the picture. And then we got Richard, which is full Swedish, no exceptions. That's Raging Bull, but it's one tournament a year. So, and then we got Mari with the Knights of Torn, which is the oldest tournament in the Netherlands. And they allow 10 what we call proxies, so 10 reprints.
Gotcha.
So it's also very open for new players, and we still get like new players coming in. We have a WhatsApp group with the whole community, which is about 80 members now, nearly.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's great. It's a great scene, and it's great that you guys are able to keep some tournament momentum even with the coronavirus and everything. I mean, I participated in, at least in Richard's Raging Bull a couple weeks ago, and I know you've organized this Corona Cup as like now an ongoing series, right? Can you tell us a little bit about the structure of the events before we dive into the decks?
Sure. So we in March, they basically the government here decided, we're gonna prohibit any live events. Of course, we're non-regulated. Our tournaments are small enough that you could continue them someplace, but we didn't find that it was fair, and it was wise to continue them. So we had to cancel all the tournaments. We just finished Richard's Reborn League, which I can elaborate on a little bit later. Just literally the weekend before the lockdown, if we want to call it a lockdown, because we were never truly in lockdown in the Netherlands. So all tournaments got cancelled, and people wanted to play. And the only thing we were lacking was a online series in Netherlands. And I always had on my mind, I want to do something online, because we got the physical tournaments locked up. I mean, all the TOs organize. They discuss it in January. Okay, this is the schedule for the year, and you're done. If you want to squeeze one in, you're welcome. But together with the Belgian guys and then Florian's tournaments, we've got the whole agenda set. So I wanted to do something online, and this was basically the trigger. So first thing I did was as many people did, asked Dave. So how do you do that with Derby?
Yeah.
And I also gave it the non-original title, Something with Corona. But I organized something just for the local guys to be able to keep playing. And the whole idea was to do a one-time setup. Short, snappy, just, we were supposed to be in lockdown for 3 weeks. So, let's cover the 3 weeks with a short tournament. So I got the software created by SlamFan, which, I mean, it's great. It really works well. The only thing I'm missing, SlamFan, if you're watching, is an option to publish scores in the middle of a batch. But no, it worked out great. And I had 30 people registered just for the first series. Everybody went. I did one batch, 4 or 5 matches, and literally within a week we blast through it. Everybody was eager. Everybody was at home.
Yeah.
So it made sense making a second series. So opened up the second series. All of a sudden, I got Florian joining. I got other guys from Europe joining. Christian, obviously, and for some reason, if Jason can't travel, he makes sure he attends every online tournament. So he doesn't stop his momentum. So he joined. And the second series had about 38 people. And then I was, we have a lockdown up until June. Let's do one every week. So I made 4 series up until nearly halfway of May. So we had time to do a 5th series, which I was going to call the Champions League, which basically was the number 1 and number 2 out of each series would be put in the top 8 series, which we would call Corona Cup 5, and that was be the Champions League. Cool. And then, it was a nice idea. And then after that, Raging Bull would start. So we did all the series, and I ended up with the last one, having people like Svante and Florian coming in, and we all mutually agreed, let's make the 4th series more like a Spice series, but we got too many spikes in the Netherlands anyway. So it was half Spike, half Spice, and we had all kinds of people trying to still get their Champions League ticket. And it just was a blast. And what I've done now is I've basically I contacted the Neos guys, asked them if I could borrow their sheet, and I made it into a monthly for the Dutch online series, which is open to everybody. There's just one rule: we want to play European times, so you don't have to hassle that you have a 9-hour time difference.
Sure.
Yeah. It's a bit rough.
I like it for the derbies.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, should we dive in?
I mean, we definitely should. I'll kind of let you take the lead. You're going to know more about the background, especially given that a lot of these players maybe played different decks over the the different Corona Cups over the couple months, right? So, and maybe they played the same one and just changed things. So maybe you can take the lead on it. But the first one we have is a deck by Anna. These are in no particular order. They're just
you're taking the worst.
This one's definitely cool. So maybe you can give us some background on why this was played.
Sure. So I'm actually opening up the deck picture as well. But the whole idea about the Corona Cup was, of course, you can play the same deck every time. But the idea was most of us like to play a new deck every tournament. So the deck we're looking at now from Anne was actually for round 4, where we said, we're just going to go all out for the people who wants to spice. The nice thing about Anne is that I love to brew with him, and his card pool is basically unlimited. He has everything. And I mean, if you look at the deck picture, there's nothing which isn't black bordered. Yeah, it is. It is, and I always love to brew with him. And most who know me know that I have a passion for prison, which always unfortunately happens to be in somewhere around the tier 3, 4, 5-ish range. But Anna loves to brew that space as well, brew combo. So yeah, we also brew a lot together. And his idea, and I guess he took it a little bit too far when I said just go all out. But he was like, okay, I'm going to make a deck which is going to bore my opponent to death. And he actually called this Groundhog Day. So after the movie.
Nice. Yeah.
So we were looking. So he came up with the idea. Okay, I'm going to make a deck which is going to focus on divine intervention. So we're gonna, and how can I cast as quickly as possible? Is by Eureka, obviously. So we're gonna put some Eurekas in. We're gonna put 4 divine interventions in. We're gonna put Scheherazade in, and I'm just gonna make sure my opponent thinks he's been seeing the same thing over and over and over again. Or something. Another good name would have been Inception, but so that was the idea of the deck, and he never intended to win the first game. But then he's also, besides being a little bit of spice, or besides being spice, he also has some spike in him, so he wants to win. So he asked me, so I want to make a transformational cyber. What would you do? I said, well, if you are boring your opponent out, why not transform into Twiddlefold, which we both love to play. Hence the sideboard.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
he would only transform after a loss. And he didn't post the full deck up front in the WhatsApp group, but he did showed some pictures, and people were just afraid to be in the same group as he was.
So how many draws did he rack up over the course of the event? Do you know? Like how many game draws?
Yeah, but that actually wasn't too bad. I mean, he only hit about 3 draws or something. So he actually did fine. Yeah, it wasn't that much actually. But his idea was, I'm going to use maces, I'm going to use Breath of Gods, I'm going to use the mirrors just to extend the game. And we actually have one game recorded by Timmy, who's also part of the Dutch group. And you see it in action there. He actually wins that game. But he had one first game win, which was the Mirrorball play. So he was back into Mirrorball, but basically his whole idea was, I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna do my thing, and he said as well. So he ended up with 3 wins in that round.
Nice.
And yeah, and the reason he won was that, he said as well, is that people just didn't know what they were playing against.
So I can even see like let's say you resolve a Eureka in this deck, and I don't know, maybe you don't put the mirror in play, you just put like 2 divine interventions. Like your opponent doesn't really want to replay the whole game, right? So then they have to spend their disenchants and stuff on that, and then you can more easily get the mirror fireball to happen. Like I definitely could see that happening quite a bit in the first game, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it only happens one. He only had one share of that game as well, which ended up in a draw. So I'm not sure if we need to count that one, Dave. But
well, and just be careful when you cast Charizard to not separate your fireball from your mirrors, I guess, because they could easily end up in different different sub game or sub deck piles. That's pretty funny.
But winning 3 games or 3 matches with this is just, it's ridiculous. So he won. Only after he lost the first game, he would go into the transformational thing, and he would just go into Twitter Vault, and people just didn't know what hit them, and then they need to sideboard for game 3, and he actually had multiple times where his opponent was like, "What is just happened?" And it didn't sideboard at all anymore for game 3, and he just took both games.
That's cool. I see. He's like he's captured his board out plan in order to bring the 15 Twiddle Vault cards in. He takes out 2 of the mirrors. He takes out 2 Wrath. He takes out all the Eurekas and Divine Interventions. He takes out the Charizard, and he takes out a couple Savannah. So that's what enables him to bring in that. Those were the ones that he took out to bring in that sub package. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that seems perfect, right? So he's left with what? I guess no Wraths. Yeah, that seems perfect. That's awesome.
Yeah. So he fully goes into Twitter Vault, into Mirrorball. One mirror, one fireball, and just keep on going. And he had many times where he had just an early Holding Mine, early Twiddle, recall, continue from there. Sylvan.
Yeah. Your opponent just doesn't know you're on. That's pretty awesome.
All right.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's move on to the next deck. I'll let you introduce the player as well, I think.
Yeah. Is that Evert?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Evert is also one of the steady players in the Netherlands, consistently top 8. He actually won 2 of the Corona Cups. And the deck we're going to look at now is during Corona Cup 4. He never tested this deck. He just built it from his head, and he started playing. And although his intention was to spice, he went 6-0.
I mean, it's got a lot of powerful cards in it, right?
Maybe he didn't spice hard enough.
No. He didn't spice hard enough at all. But he was. But yeah, he's, like I said, he's a consistent player. He said up front as well. It's a bunch of good cards, but he had some weird plays as well. So he was. I know he told me, I'm going to make a mashup of Tania's Prison and Mirrorball. So I'm going to call it Tania's Mirror. He just killed a lot of people with huge artifacts. I mean, the games took very long, obviously, online games, untimed. But he wanted to punish the people for something we do a lot in old school, is having a greedy mana base. So he would put a Tania Song into play and just kill a bunch of Moxen. And he literally had his best game was against Gerard Sierkowski.
Oh yeah,
Exactly. And everyone butchers his last name.
Turtle Man.
Yeah, Turtle Man.
Yeah, better known as Turtle Man.
Yeah. That game took about 2.5 hours, and he ended up. He actually ended up killing the Moxen with Tania's Song, and he had 2 Mirror Universe and 1 copy artifact on a mirror in play. But that's kill your mana, attack for 80.
Yeah, I can see that being sort of a surprise, right? Like you might not expect that to really be in the deck. It's nothing tells me that.
Usually when you say you're going to kill somebody with a mirror, you don't mean literally attack them with a mirror.
Right. This is
pretty cool. I mean, this I think it's definitely more Mirrorball than Titania's Prison, but I do like the fact that it's like it gives Mirrorball like a whole other dimension to it and a whole other path to victory. I think that's what's neat about this deck.
Yeah.
Yeah. He actually had a win where he was playing another Dutch player, and he cast Tanya Song, Moxon went. He played Strip Mine, stripped the factory, and he literally took the guy down with a Felver Stone and a Relic Barrier from 20 to 0. talking about a dreadful pain.
Yeah, I feel like this deck sort of is in the path of like choosing to overwhelm your opponent's disenchants and other artifact hate, right? Which is like I think a sort of a strategy that people often don't really consider. Like if they're going to have a bunch of removal and you decide, oh, I'm going to take out some cards so that I don't have as many things to die to that. It just means that whenever you play your one mirror that you're left with or whatever, it's just going to get killed, right? And so actually boarding like more into it is sometimes I think the right choice to make. It makes you in the end less vulnerable, and here I think it works pretty well with the songs, right? Because you need to play out those artifacts. You can't really fix the fundamental aspect of your deck where it's already centered around artifacts and enchantments. There's not much that you can really do about that. So I can kind of see just having this extra plan, and you're going to have those artifacts lying around anyway. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what he said as well. I mean, he said they just don't have enough disenchants to handle this. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He really liked the Abyss, basically the all-star of the deck. He said he would play 2 next time, and he's certainly not done brewing.
Yeah.
Now he really liked this. Also, being a gentleman, he didn't play the Mind Twist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that. Well, yeah, that's an awesome deck. I think I hope we see more of decks like that. Actually, just kind of expanding the win conditions to having something parallel, like Dave mentioned. It's just a different route to victory. So, okay, shall we move on to the next one?
Sure.
Oh yeah, whose deck is this, Hank?
Oh, we're looking at my deck.
Yeah.
It isn't my deck. All credits go out to. I was actually surprised you picked this one. So this was my.
This is Lotus Eater, right? That's the archetype.
Yeah, correctly. So there's definitely 0 credit to me on this deck. I might have changed a couple of cards, hence why I had a less result than Johan. But I actually played him in Christian's tournament where we played as well, Dave. Where me and Richard thought it was a good idea to do an online tournament together in the same room, which actually wasn't.
I think I remember that, yeah.
Yeah. I think Dave literally said to me, I think Richard is going to mind twist somebody because Richard was asking how many cards somebody had.
Yeah, I could hear what was going on the other table.
Yeah. And also after a couple of people
makes it more like you're in a room with a bunch of other Magic players, right? I mean, I can see the appeal.
Yeah,
maybe it's just
many weeks at home. I mean, you need to have need to have that again. Anyway, we that deck. I remember Mano mentioning. I'm a big fan of the show, so I spend a lot of time in the car, so I listen to all the episodes. Sure. And I remember him telling on the show that there was somebody in Sweden killing a tournament with Reconstruction, Lotus, Amnesia. And I remember the first time I looked at Amnesia and I was like, this is not restricted. And I bought 4 copies. I went into my binder and they never left. I was like, okay, I need to play this card. And then I was playing Jan tournament and he said to me as well, I said, I remember you built that deck with Reconstruction and Lotus. And so I knew for myself I need to play that one in Corona Cup 4. And it's actually quite good.
Yeah. I was gonna say I've seen the archetype before, but doesn't get, I think, as much airtime as maybe it should. It's a really cool deck.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's been played a bit in Europe, but not in the States as much for whatever reason. And the central crux of it, for those of you who don't know the Lotus Eater archetype, it's basically turning Reconstruction into effectively like a dark ritual for any color, because you're consistently recurring and sacking Lotus a bunch of times to cast 6 mana cards. It's really, really, making 6 mana out of nowhere is pretty powerful, as it turns out. So you can do stuff like Amnesia and Triskelion and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I have to give you a little bit of a hard time, Hank, for your photo.
I'm not good at photos.
The pile. I understand that the pile underneath the recall is like blue power and brain geyser. Like, and I understand what's underneath the Lotus, but like, come on, give your cards a little bit of breathing room. Let's, help us out here.
I know I'm not known for my deck pictures, but on the other hand, when I look at a deck picture, I know that underneath the Lotus are the Moxen, are the Soul Ring, are the, So this is also how I look at deck pictures. I just look at so I'm just looking for the cards that stand out, because 90% of most decks are the same anyway. But no, you're definitely correct.
Sure enough.
I need to work on my picture skills. On the other hand, just give them something to look for as well. Or at least you need to glance 3 times to know for certain. Was there a regrowth? Was there a rebalancing? It is actually funny how sick this deck can be. I know he went 5-0 with it, if I remember correctly. And I didn't manage to go 5-0. But I had, I think, 3 games where I had a turn 1 Amnesia on my opening hand.
Wow.
And I remember that I was playing Timmy, and I said, "Oh man, I've built a deck. You need to record that, because he likes some different content." So I'm on his channel a couple of times with the prison deck. So I'm there with Stasis, I'm there with Land Equilibrium, and all kinds of stuff. And I said, "No, you need to record this one." And that was one day after you played Anna. Like 7 games or something that it took to finally complete that game. And then he was playing me, and he literally defeated me. I was at 1, and I pull a mirror, and of course I have enough mana, lay down the mirror, win game 1. And I start game 2, and I start with Lotus, Land, Reconstruction, Amnesia. And he goes like, "Fuck this, I'm done." Stopped the recording, and he left.
That's pretty crazy. That's not even the hardest hand to have, right? Like, it didn't require. I mean, it required you to have Lotus, right?
That should be pretty typical here, actually.
It is. It's just unbelievable how many times you can, like you said, Dave. I mean, even with the mana vaults and all the Moxen and everything, it's quite easy to pull 6 mana in turn 1, turn 2.
I mean, you're giving yourself like 5 Lotuses in your deck, and then additional Lotuses, 5 additional Lotuses after you have a Lotus in the graveyard, basically, right? Or 6 additional Lotuses, right? Reconstructions, regrowth, recall. So there's a lot that you can do. You can keep eating, every other turn, basically.
So don't forget the transmutes, because they are all-star in this deck. And
the transmutes are the 5 to get you there, right? Actual Lotus tutor and then 3 transmutes.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, how often are you casting DT just to get Lotus? Probably a lot more often in this deck than other decks. But
mainly tutor, and also of course a mana vault is a very nice transmute target.
Yeah, transmute. Yeah.
But I mean, the transmute, the times you're transmuting a Mox away for a Lotus is just, and I haven't given this deck the amount of time it deserves. Never tested it, just started playing it. And I discussed it with Swante. I played against Swante. He was on a version of the deck. and he fiddled around a little bit with it, and he thinks it's not consistent enough. So there's a lot of wiggle room in here. You can use multiple Sylvans to go more towards the mirror play. Dig a little bit deeper, but it was a fun deck for me. But the amount of times you basically, well, the thing is, you feel bad when you do a Mind Twist on turn 1 for 6, but nobody can blame you that you cast an Amnesia.
Yeah, that's right. It's like a socially acceptable Mind Twist, right?
I mean, 3 blue, 3 colorless. Okay, you deserve that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Let's maybe move on to the next deck. So you can tell us a little bit about this. I thought this deck was cool. I just don't see a lot of these cards very often. So
Lou Ferrigno stands out for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We're talking about Yoop, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and well, Dave, you know Yoop.
Yeah, definitely.
So Yoop is one of the TOs.
Is it the Hill Giant Cup? The Hilversum, yep.
Well, he does the same thing as you. So we have a summer version, which is the Hill Giant, and in the winter we got the Frost Giant Cup.
Right.
And it's in Hilversum indeed. And I asked you, can you just give me some background on your deck? And he said, sure. I just got my 4th beta veteran Bodyguard, and I wanted to play it. Cool.
That's all the reason he needs. Makes sense.
Yeah, that was his reasoning behind the deck, and he just had a lot of fun playing this deck. He said as well, his idea was, okay, so as long as I keep on playing Bodyguards, I keep on playing Maces of Ith, and then if I'm playing Bodyguard, I need to add 2 castles.
Sure.
I mean, once you go down the path of playing Bodyguard, you need to have those as well. So he added those, and he said, well, the things with the mazes and the guards is that it's going to force people to put a lot of creatures into play. And I got 2 things for that. I either draw my 1 Wrath of God, or better, I draw one of my creatures with a Diamond Valley. And I just start eating their creatures. And that was by far his biggest engine. He added the animates because he just wanted to show that they're not played enough. On the other hand, the target he animated most were his own Saras. So
Sure. I like animate here a lot, actually. Even recurring a preacher. The preacher's power doesn't matter. But bringing the preacher back for 2 mana to get the Diamond Valley engine back online seems pretty good. And also, you don't care about the Bodyguard's power so much; you just care about the toughness. I like the Pestilence here too. I think that's pretty. Yeah. That's sneaky and pretty smart.
Yeah, agree. Now he actually said that the biggest downside of the Bodyguard is that it only gives you purification when you cast it, because then it's done. It doesn't perform at all anymore. It doesn't do anything.
Well, I mean, you can technically, with Maze, you can attack with him and then untap him at end of combat, right? So if they don't have anything to kill it, like block and kill him with, right? Like you can still attack in with him sometimes. So I can see him doing a little bit of work, but yeah, not very much, I assume.
So on the giant tournaments, Timmy organized a side event, which is called Rose, revised only side event. And he actually won that with an all-white veteran Bodyguard build, playing in the finals against Lorenzo from Italy. Anastasis build. Yeah.
Nice.
So he's a veteran Bodyguard veteran then.
He definitely is, yeah. But revised, and now on beta they performed less. Yeah.
And when you're playing cards this sweet, like, why bother with the sideboard, right?
No, he actually has a sideboard, but it wasn't on the picture.
Okay.
but he wanted to extend the theme. So so the whole Wrath of God theme. So to extend that theme, he used Dust to Dust and Ashes to Ashes, both of them, and a couple of Northern Paladins. And in his revised only build, he actually played 10 Circle of Protections.
Awesome.
Yeah. This deck is also available on the channel of Timmy, so you can see it in action there.
See it in action. Yeah, very awesome. All right. Well, next up, we have this deck's quite cool. I think we just don't see very many Tron decks actually, like the Ursuline decks, and I saw that there was more than one actually, so I only we ended up only picking one for this, but there were some other cool ones. I thought there's plenty of decks in the whole Corona Cup series that we aren't talking about here, but anyhow, I think you just don't see this very often, and this was a cool application of it.
Yeah, but that was the fun part of the whole Corona Cup as well, because I think I sent you guys like 120 deck pictures.
Something. Yeah, there was a lot.
Something like that. And people just wanted to play something new every time. And so Koendert is actually relatively new to the community. And he played Tron because he likes Tron in Modern. Or he used to play Tron in Modern, and he just loves the fun artifacts we have in Old School. So when he started looking at Old School, he said, "Well, man, there's just some weird artifacts in that one. I need to play that." So he played all the Tron lands, obviously, and then he played Factory just as a lightning rod for both land destruction, disenchant, and otherwise as a defense against the 1 and 2 drops. And then he played the cities in the Emerald just for Sylvan. Yeah, Sylvan in. And to put up front, he actually ended up 7th in the Swish. So he went to top 8 with this deck.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah. And he wanted to show that Tron can do top 8. He is a aggressive Sylvan user. So, Sylvan, pay 8 life, take the cards, or and this is what I was missing in the discussion Mano had with Malte or Lucas the other day on. He actually used Sylvan to put like his bird and his Wheel of Fortune on top, just in case he get a Mind Twist against him.
Yeah, like a little insurance.
Exactly. So he knew that if I'm gonna get Mind Twisted, if I'm gonna get Wheel of Fortune, I know what cards are on top, and cool. I got a little insurance. And I asked him why he played Colossus, and he said because I love the art.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is cooler.
If you need to play 3 of them, you can question. But,
the one thing I was thinking is this deck might benefit from just a couple Mazavith.
I was going to ask about Mazavith, and I was going to ask about Berserk before I realized how light the green splash was, really just for the 2 Sylvans. But if he wants to go a little deeper into green, Berserk is another fun way to end a game. You've got the Colossus and the Trike, and the Atog can get pretty big too. So
exactly.
He's playing the colorless Berserk in Sword of the Ages.
In Sword, yeah, exactly, for sure.
And that was his reason why not to play Maze. So his mana base is quite tight. He basically thought, I only need to go in once with a Colossus. Put it on. I'm never gonna untap it. It's gonna hit for 9. I'm gonna sack it, and it's gonna do another hit. He also looks at Mishra's Factories like a lightning bolt using the sword, and he just have 2 Atogs because they're a great outlet if you want to draw. If you want to get rid of your tapped Colossus, and also that he for the swords, because like you said, Dave, you attack, you make it huge, you sack it. He actually sacked an Atog of 13 to the swords as well.
Nice.
So
that's great.
They were king. And what I really actually liked is if you look at his sideboard, he has Tutor and Mind Twist in his sideboard.
Sure. That's the old. You can bring in Mind Twist post board if your opponent pisses you off in game one.
Yeah, or in his mind if they play black because of the Felwars.
Sure.
Yeah, I guess I'll retract my earlier statement, because in this deck you're obviously casting Colossus, so you could just untap them.
Yeah,
you just pay the mana, right?
Yeah, you could just pay for it again, right?
Yeah.
I believe he played against an Ivory Tower life game deck, and he just fireballed for 18.
All right. Well, yeah, this is a cool deck. You don't see Sword of the Ages and Colossus just getting cast. They're usually in a Eureka deck, right? So this is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the next one. This is a cool deck as well. I actually like this one quite a bit.
This is Steven or... Which one are you looking at now?
Yeah, this one's Steven.
Steven, yeah, okay, cool. So I played Steven. Steven was also new to the community, and he started playing in my tournament for the first time. And so I was playing against him, and I was like, hang on. So I got a Sorcerer's Queen, I got a Royal, I got a Cabal Ghoul, I got a Timmy.
There's a lot of things going on here. Yeah.
Exactly. What are you playing? And he said, well, I just started, and I basically built my deck I had when I was 15 years old.
Nice.
Perfect.
In my mind, that's what old school is.
Mm-hmm.
So he had the he had the whole Sorcerer's Queen combo. He had the Icy Royal combo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those Cabal Ghouls, yeah, they actually work reasonably well. You can kill a Mox with a Xenic Poltergeist, or with the whole Royal Assassin Icy combo. You can kill stuff and just
and Tim also, right, is mowing things down. I think I like it. I think I like it a lot.
Yeah.
I what I liked most was the whole idea behind it, because if you look at it, yes, there are some synergies in it. On the other hand, I mean, a flying man, a Mahamoti,
mm-hmm.
and a single sinkhole. But it's just, well, these are the cards I have. This is what I played when I was 15, and I'll take it from there.
Yeah,
this is great.
It's very noble. I like that quite a bit. It's a
very nostalgic.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like the disc. The disc here too is very cool. Like if you do need to blow up the world, including all of your utility creatures, like usually you're not going to be disking with stuff like Poltergeist or Sorcerer's Queen or Tim or a Royal Assassin. But if you do, you can kill everything, and then post disc you can play the Cabal Ghoul, because it only checks for dead creatures at the it remembers things that happened before it hit the battlefield. Kind of a unique and weird thing about that card. So you can play it post disc and have it get pretty big at the end of that turn, which is neat.
Mm-hmm.
He actually just finished his last game in the monthly, and he played Hell's Caretaker, Raise Dead, Lord of the Pits, Cabal Ghoul. So he's always in those type of decks, which
is awesome.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to play against. Yeah, definitely.
All right, so I think last up, we have one more deck. Mm-hmm.
This was a fun one as well. So we played. I didn't play against him, but we had people who played against him, asking like about the world. What was that? What just happened? Wall of Ice? Mm-hmm. I'm like, hang on, you're playing Wall of Ice? So we shared his deck picture afterwards, obviously, and he's actually still tuning this deck.
Nice.
So yeah, and what he told me is that, because I kind of questioned the Pestilence Birds of Paradise in one deck.
I was about to go there, but
yeah. So in this case, the birds are essential, according to him. It's the way to get out your Ice Storming turn 2 to get the Pestilence on the field.
Right. I mean, he's playing unpowered, right? So you do need some dorks to accelerate your
sense.
3-drops for sure.
Yeah, and he said the absolute all-stars are the Urnums, together with the Pestilence, because they're so, there are not many 5 toughness creatures.
Mm-hmm.
He just kills everything with Pestilence, and then his Urnum survives.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
everything else.
Yeah, and then he just refills on sacking a wall of ice to the Diamond Valley.
Mm. Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and he just wants to get a Dervish out as quickly as possible after sideboarding. The drain lives didn't do as much as you wanted, so I think those are cut. And he played it again in Corona Cup 4. Yeah, and it's just the problem for him are flyers. He doesn't have a lot against flyers. Yeah, he has a Sengri in the sideboard.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully he can Pestilence small flyers or just, terror the Sarah Angels, basically.
Yeah, but not everybody's playing Dragonflies.
Yeah, damn Dragonflies.
Hey, they won the Raging Bull, so.
Absolutely. This is a cool pile. I feel like it's also pretty nostalgic, although you didn't necessarily see Diamond Valleys on the board, when you were a kid, but all the rest of these cards you easily would have seen around. And there's a lot of sneaky synergies here, especially like with the life gain from Diamond Valley. If you sack a wall of ice or something that can fuel your Sylvan draws. There's a lot of neat stuff, and the more incidental life gain too with the drain life, right? Yeah, I like this. I actually like this pile quite a bit, and just kind of owning the fact like you don't have Moxes, like, so what? Jam some birds in there, just kind of hit your 3s and 4s that much faster, and once the bird has done its job, it's okay to Pestilence it away if you have to.
And that's exactly where it was for. Just get out a Dervish, get out an Ice Storm, get out the Pestilence. As long as my wall is there, my Pestilence won't go. And take it from there. And he said as well, this deck was just a pleasure to play, win or loss, and the reaction you get when you cast a wall of ice, which I can imagine, that's
absolutely
priceless.
So very cool. One last thing I was going to mention is with the early birds, they might actually draw some removal. People tend to just want to kill them, so that's another sort of benefit of playing them, even though you know that they're eventually, you're going to clear them out with your own Pestilence. But if they snag a swords, that seems great. Something like that.
Definitely,
Okay, well, very, very cool decks. It's a very cool series. I'm definitely glad to see sort of the explosion of new events over the last few months online, right? I mean, it opens up a whole new world for people, because there's definitely a pretty substantial subset of old school players that are kind of stranded in their own little part of a country or a certain part of the world, right? And this gives them a way to really get involved much more. And so it's actually been, I don't know, I've probably just been playing way too many events is what it's really turned into for me, because there's just stuff all the time. But I think it's awesome to see more events, just a monthly series like you've been doing here. It's pretty awesome.
And it's also just depending on the amount of players, it's just 4 games. And you get 3 weeks to play them, so it's not an overload. You can combine them with, I don't know, we have a lot of people now also looking at pre-modern, including myself, because Stasis actually is a more competitive build in that format, so I tried it out last month. But you can just easily combine it next to the other tournaments. So anybody who wants to play, I posted on the Dutch Old School Guild on Facebook or ragingbullseries.com.
Gotcha. Awesome.
Anybody can play. Just one rule: we play European time zone. So we, anybody working from home, always welcome.
Yeah, it's a reasonable request. So we have one other kind of special thing to do today. We have one of these Spectral Chaos packs that we were given by Raging River on the Discord, Micah. My actual pack was lost in the mail, so he had to actually recreate it and send me a digital version of it. So, but that actually is just fine for video anyway. So, so we have all the images, and you'll be able to see the cards in nice high def resolution on here. He also kindly sent me a picture of what the original card was like before he altered it to be the version in the end. And a couple other things maybe I should just say about this real quick. I think most people have heard about Spectral Chaos at this point. And you know, Micah kind of just did a small thing for himself. This stuff isn't for sale. It's not anything like that, right? It was just a cool thing that he put together, and you know, just like a fan-based historical magic, you know, thing for himself. So, and so he was just kind of sharing all this with the world. And you know, it's you know, this is all old school related, and you know, this set was originally designed during the very early days of Magic, right? And very old school feel to a lot of the cards. So yeah, I mean, I thought we would kind of just dive right into it, and I haven't looked at these cards actually. He sent me the images, and I just put them right into this folder, and then figured we'd all experience them kind of at the same time. So, so the first card we have here is, I'm gonna assume I'm pronouncing this right. It's a Mildeworm.
Yep.
It was originally it says Summon Fungusaur, but it's been changed to a Fungus Dinosaur. Kind of makes sense. But it's a three mana, one colorless, a black and a red for a 1/1. And it says at the beginning of your upkeep, you can pay a black and a red. And if you do, you put a plus one counter on Mildeworm. It's actually kind of interesting. I don't know
that is interesting.
Yeah.
You can't grow it at instant speed, but you get the option once a turn.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you are. I mean, it's at its worst on the second turn, I guess, when you've invested 5 mana into a 2/2, right?
2/2, yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
can you see more?
I'm not sure it's good, but but it's better than some other old school creatures, for sure.
Can you pay more? Because it doesn't say.
I don't think so. You can just
no.
pay,
I think it triggers. It triggers at the beginning of the upkeep once. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think just like was true in all of the old school sets, there's definitely going to be some questionable cards, and there's probably some really broken stuff at the same time, and they're just coexisting, and that's just the world we live in. It's a very cool art, though. I like this art that he.
Yeah, he's chosen a lot of really cool public domain arts.
Yeah,
I love the visual design. He poured a ton of time and energy into realizing this set visually, and I think he did an outstanding job.
Yeah,
I also think the amount of requests exploded, right? Like, where can we get this? Where can we...
Yeah.
I mean, this is crying some steroids. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, what's the next card, Mike?
Next up, we've got a card called Fizzle. So this thing's really cool. The artwork actually quite nicely goes with the border, which I thought was kind of funny. But, you know, it's another way to actually kill enchantments, which, you know, in traditional old school, we've, you know, got a hard time doing sometimes, right? This one's a little weird, though. So you can pay green and then X, and you can destroy X enchantments, but you have to also sacrifice X enchantments.
If you have them, yeah.
If you have them, right? But, I mean, you know, if you're just not playing a deck with enchantments, then you can just kill exactly however many enchantments you want.
I love this card. Mm-hmm. I think 93-94 is missing a card like this. At least half of a naturalize effect in green.
Yeah.
I think I would play this in actual 93-94. It's a good answer to stuff like, you know, kill the Abyss for 2 mana or something in your you know, mono green deck, or
would you
go ahead.
Would you play it over Tranquility?
Yes, I would. Yeah. Because if you think about it, if you're paying 2 and a green sorcery, you're killing up to 2 enchantments. Usually you're not playing your own enchantments. Maybe green has its odd Sylvan Library or I don't know, Arborea or Titania Song. You just have to be a little bit careful about that. But I think it's a tool for green decks that aren't necessarily built around enchantments, and this can do quite a lot if it happens. I mean, usually the mode of just killing 1 enchantment for 1 and a green is 90% of the use cases for this, I imagine. But
I kind of wish it was.
I would play with this card for sure.
I kind of wish it was an instant, but maybe that's just asking too much.
Yeah, right. Because you do have to. The Abyss is going to trigger once and kill one of your guys before you get to fizzle it. Right?
But there is another aspect to this card of you can actually sacrifice enchantments that maybe you don't want to keep. I don't know what exists. That's just a thought that I just had right now. So, but maybe there's something like you play it early, it does something for you, and then you want to actually sacrifice it later, and this gives you a way to do that. I'd have to think about it. I'm not sure.
I'd have to think of enchantments that are symmetrical that you may have run out of usage for, that you don't want your opponent to benefit from anymore. I don't know if there's anything like that.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, like Fast Bond is one-sided, right? So.
What? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I didn't have an example when I thought about that, but it is a different aspect of the card that you probably want to consider. Maybe if the card pool were larger, maybe there's something in this set we don't know about, because I haven't looked at all of.
I'm sure there is. It's an enormous set. So. All right, what's next?
Next up, we have a card called Cleric of. I don't know. This is like the Shivan versus Shivan thing. I don't know how to pronounce any of these made-up fantasy names. Samiz, I guess. Yeah. It seems just kind of like an overcosted creature. It's an interesting ability, though, right? You can tap.
Yeah. You want this to cost like 2 mana, basically.
2 mana, yeah. Yeah. Just so you get a 2 mana 1/3.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
It's definitely interesting, but this seems like a card that you might play in like limited. It seems fine if you're drafting.
Yeah, sure. If you end up in those colors, it gives you some kind of I don't know.
Maybe you
a bit underwhelming.
Play it.
I do like the Art Nouveau.
Maybe for the veteran Bodyguard deck.
Right.
Yeah,
the castles. Yeah.
One other thing to point out is also, the whole set obviously is about like mixing the color, like different colors together and actually playing multicolor cards, that kind of thing. So, here we're saying a white card that affects green creatures. I think we saw that in some other places too, because I remember there's some Ice Age cards that do that and things like that, right?
Yeah, so there's some stuff like that in Ice Age where it's working with allied pairs. For sure.
I think in this set there's no real restriction on that. They're kind of just all over the place as far as allied versus unallied colors. But
but it's also Barry was involved in Ice Age, right? So
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, and what I read was that they didn't publish this because it was just supposed to be straight off the Legends, and Legends already introduced gold cards and multicolor cards.
Makes sense.
All right, next card.
Yep. All right, it's called Lightning Rod. A 5 mana 07. That's interesting. Next time target source would deal non-combat damage this turn. Damage is instead dealt to this. Okay. Player may activate this ability. Okay. Interesting.
Sort of like it's like a Spellskite type thing.
Yeah, kind of, but just for lightning bolts and fireballs and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. We don't have too many effects like that.
It blocks everything.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
It's just expensive, right? It's just 5 mana is the problem. You have to get to 5 mana.
Plus, if you're blocking with it, your opponent can activate this ability. I don't know. It's weird. I guess your opponent wouldn't activate this because they're just they could just bolt the thing instead of. Yeah, I don't know. This is a weird card.
Yeah, it is a weird card. I'm sure that there's some interesting application for it, but I'm hard pressed to see it in the moment.
I like that it's a gargoyle. That's cool. There's some flavor there.
Yeah, that's true. That's cool. All right. Well, next up, we've got. Yeah, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I love this art.
Oh yeah, the art is really sweet. Yeah.
Because
on the one that's coming up.
Yeah.
On Lemming. Oh, Lemming.
Yeah.
Okay.
It just reminds me of being like, I don't know, 15 or something when you were playing the Lemmings game.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I like the art. The art is in the style of old school Magic too, right?
Yeah.
Like some of these other ones are a little more like abstract or photorealistic or stuff like that. But this looks like it could be in one of the original sets.
Yeah, it's painted, right? It's the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of style. This card's really good. I think this card's really good. It just has to attack if you're going to attack, and it has to block if you're going to block, right? So 2 mana, 2/4.
It's an amazing body for the price, and that's pretty much all I care about. I think you're always going to want to attack with it, and you're always going to want, or most of the time anyway, you're going to want to attack and block with it. Yeah, I think this is cool. I would play this.
Mm-hmm. You would play this over Grizzly Bears.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't get bolted, right?
Yeah, no, I'd play this over a lot of green 2-drops, actually.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, this one it has less of a like, what are the weird things that you can do with it, and more just like, is this a solid creature or not? So I'm not sure that there's much else to say about it exactly. But
agree. Yeah, no, we can move on, but this is a cool card, and in 93, 94, I think it would see play for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Very cool. Okay, so next up we have a card called Treeline Wanderer. 5 mana 3/3 makes me wary already, but that's okay. You can. Oh, I see. It's kind of like Sunglasses of Ursa on a guy.
And it's a tap ability, and that's enough to. No, I'm out on this one.
Yeah,
cool idea. I like this, like the Naya shard colors. Yeah. That's kind of interesting, but not so much.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably just, it's probably draftable like 5 mana 3/3 if there aren't a lot of lightning bolt effects in this set. I mean, that's probably fine, but for like constructed stuff, I don't know how you exactly convince yourself to play this. Cool card though. Next up, we have Crystal Scepter. This one seems similar to some cards that they printed later that I'm now forgetting the names of.
Well, the charms. I mean, the alpha charm cycle, and there's They tried to fix that cycle later in like 10th edition or something weird.
Yeah, exactly. Where they just do this, right? Like
this is still not good, but it's another design in that space for sure.
Mm-hmm. And then there's we didn't mention this yet because I don't think we've seen a card with it yet, but there's Chaos History on some of these, so they're referencing that here. There you
go. It's not 10th edition. It's Dark Steel. Apparently.
Dark Steel, was the first. They reprinted them and other things, though. I think after. Yeah.
Neat.
Yeah, cool card. Yeah, and I like the whole Chaos History thing. I mean, it's a Magic history fan based set, so it seems pretty.
Yeah,
awesome.
it's a great idea.
Yeah. All right, so next up we have a card called Faded Mox.
Yeah.
I mean, this seems awesome.
Yeah, this is a great card.
Yeah.
This is Crystal Mox basically, Mox Crystal, and this would, I don't know, break old school maybe, or at least provoke a lot of debate as to when you play 6 Moxes. If you can afford the.
It's going to be restricted if you had it in the 40.
Yeah, it would certainly be restricted for sure. Although, in Swedish, we at least have April Fool's jokes about unrestricting Mox Emerald, excuse me. So that would be the safest unrestrict. So this would become the next safest unrestrict.
It is funny though that if you look at the history that they were going to give this away to winners of some 5-color tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've seen one. I think like one of the ones that they're referencing because they gave them away for that.
They exist.
Yeah, I think maybe Will has one. I don't remember who has one. Somebody that I've met before in old school has one. Can't remember who it is though.
Good card.
Yeah, very good card. All right, next up we have a card called Lesser Black Demon.
Okay, so it's a 5/5 for 5 mana, flies.
Flying, yeah.
And in your upkeep, you sack a creature, it deals 5 to you.
Yeah.
This is basically Lord of the Pit Junior, and I think it's very playable in 93, 94.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I would use this.
Yeah, play it at the top end of some black aggressive deck.
Yeah, sure. With some little guys, lying around. Maybe you've got an Elves of Deep Shadow or something. I don't know. You only need to attack with this like twice to win the game, right? So
yeah. That's awesome. Okay. Let's see what's next here. We've got Gakka One Eye.
Yeah. I leave this one like.
All right, so we've got a 2. This is cool. I like this quite a bit. We always talk about how there's not enough goblins in old school. Not quite enough goblins. Like you want like a 2-drop goblin or whatever. There's a bunch of goblin orcs there's a bunch of orcs, and so you've got a lord here for orcs. I don't know if that would actually make an orc deck playable or not. Probably not.
But this was missing. I mean, we even kobolds have a lord.
That's true.
We've got a couple, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the orcs were missing a lord. But why make it legendary?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, Hank, that I was going to bring up. Micah errated this to be legendary, I think, based on the fact that it has a proper name. But there in the design file for Spectral Chaos, there are no legendary like super types. That's not a thing. I think that's something that Micah just introduced like as a sensibility. For, like, if it were printed in 95 as intended, it probably would have had the legendary super type because it came after Legends. But yeah, in the design file, it wasn't legendary. And I think making it legendary makes it even less playable than something like. I mean, this is Goblin King basically, right? It's the same casting cost, but you don't even get the Mount Walk benefit, and you can only have one of it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So maybe if you're in your orc deck, maybe you run 2 of these, just so you have access to the Anthem effect. But yeah.
Will make your Ironclaw orc attack for 1 more.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So the mythic rare, I guess, it said in the file here, it says very rare red. It's called Polymorph. That's another magic card, but this is a different card. This is actually red. It's instead of blue. And you basically turn another permanent into another permanent, right?
Yeah,
it's
this
kind
is
of
a
copy effect, but when they're already on the battlefield.
It forces something to become a copy of something else.
Yeah.
I think this is an amazing build around. I think this is a hot card. Yeah, I would love to brew with this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's expensive, right? 2 red is hard to cast, but it's an instant. That's pretty funny and fun and exciting. I don't know. I would like to use this for sure.
Yeah.
Give this to a couple of the brewers, and they will come up with stuff.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not thinking of anything off the top of my head, but there's so many weird fringe old school things that this can potentially maybe work with. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. So last up we have, so Micah told me he made, a handful of cards that were kind of his own design that he thought kind of went along with the theme. And
these are super fun.
Yeah, this one's funny, called Nostalgic Incantation. The artwork that he undoubtedly put together is pretty funny to me. And just all the different things that it does in the text box are funny. So if you as long as a 90s song or soundtrack is audible, your creatures have haste, and if you're in a living room or bedroom, like kitchen table type area, I assume is what we're going for here. Everything you have, it has flash. whenever someone says nerd or dork, you gain 5 life. I like how it has some reminder text of you can only do this once, but you can incite the taunt. That's good.
Yeah.
You can incite the taunt just by being yourself.
Yeah, I guess, right. And then the very last one I think is pretty interesting because it's something happening between games, right? So if you resolve the spell earlier, you can just start the game with it and play. And the thing I'll point out is this affects, well, other than the gain life part, it affects everybody. Like everyone's creatures have haste, everyone's spells have flash. No, it says all spells you control have flash. Sorry. So the 2 parts only work for you. The 1 part works for your opponent, according to the way it's worded. But yeah, it's just that's definitely a cool card. It feels like, you know, I don't know if you guys ever did this, but like, you know, invented Magic cards on your own when you were a kid.
Oh yeah.
You know,
cutting them out.
Yeah, I mean, who didn't?
Yeah, exactly. So this feels right up, right along the lines of that. It's pretty awesome. So.
This artwork. You can keep on looking and you keep on finding new things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Beavis and Butthead. You see Goonies, StarCraft. This is a trip down memory lane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
for sure. That's awesome. Well, I mean, we should, I guess, kind of thank Micah for letting us, you know, check these things out and just see. Yeah. You know, he's put a lot of work into this, and you know, that's
an understatement. He's put hundreds of hours of work into this. It's
amazing. Yeah, these were all just like I said before. They're all just, you know, they're not for sale anywhere. There's just a fan created set, and Micah wanted to share it with the world, and it's very old school oriented. So, you know, the old school community has definitely been motivated to talk about it. It's just a cool thing.
Definitely
kind of related to the history of Magic. So.
I got to drop. I'll let you guys kind of wrap it up. But thanks Micah for contributing the pack. Thanks Hank for sitting with us. And
pleasure.
A lot of really cool decks. You guys have a great scene there in the Netherlands, and looking forward to seeing what you guys do next.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, we can call it quits now. Thanks for joining us, everybody. And yeah, thanks for joining us, Hank. This was awesome. It's always good to get the perspective of, you know, the organizer, right? Because you know the players better. You know what's going on with the decks, and it's good to not only get a sense of those things, but also let everybody else kind of learn about old school communities that they're not really directly part of. You know, and there's the world's a big place, and there's a whole lot of communities, and you know, I think, you know, like just being out in the U.S. sometimes we just don't know that things are going on in Europe and vice versa, I just kind of like that we're taking that approach with this. So
and it's great. I mean, I visited London, the World Cup last year, and I mean, even the US guys were there. It's just, you know, it feels like one big community of friends all among each other. So it's it's definitely what makes this community in this format. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me again. And whenever you have another one of these to go through, we can always do another episode. So.
I will let you know. All right.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks
for having me.
Mm-hmm.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers.